My parents uninvited me from Christmas to protect my sister's mental health, but 10 minutes later, they sent me a PayPal invoice for $22,000 to pay for her brand new Range Rover. I'm Grace, and instead of sending the money, I exposed them to the entire internet. Hit subscribe if you love seeing entitled parents get exactly what they deserve, and let's see how I ruined their perfect holiday. The wind off Lake Michigan was brutal enough to make my eyes water, but I barely felt it. I was too busy wrestling 3 oversized shopping bags through the revolving doors of my apartment building in downtown Chicago. "Need a hand, Grace?" the doorman asked, eyeing the gold foil peeking out of the top bag. "I've got it, Jerry. Just Christmas prep," I chirped, flashing a smile that felt a little too tight. I wrestled the bags into the elevator and pressed the button for the 22nd floor. My arms were burning, but it was a good burn. Inside those bags was my annual offering to the altar of my parents' approval. For my dad, a bottle of Japanese whiskey aged longer than I'd been alive. For my mom, a cashmere wrap in the exact shade of dusty rose she'd admired in a magazine 6 months ago. And for Tiffany, my 23-year-old baby sister, a designer handbag that cost more than my first car. I was 28, a senior marketing manager, and I paid my own rent. Yet, I still felt like a desperate teenager every December, hoping that this year, if the gifts were expensive enough, I wouldn't be the family disappointment. I wouldn't be the rigid one. I wouldn't be the workaholic who thought she was better than everyone else. I dumped the bags onto my sofa and exhaled, letting the silence of my apartment wash over me. It was tidy, modern, and lonely. I couldn't wait to be back in Ohio. I missed the chaos. I missed the noise. I even missed the passive-aggressive comments about my hair being too blonde or my job being too stressful. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. A notification lit up the screen. From Mom. Subject: Christmas logistics. I smiled. Finally. Usually, Mom sent the itinerary by Thanksgiving, outlining when I needed to land, what dishes I was expected to cook, and which family events were mandatory. I sat down, kicking off my heels, and opened the email. There was no attachment, just a short block of text. "Hi, Grace. Dad and I have been doing a lot of thinking. This year has been incredibly hard on Tiffany. She's going through a lot of personal growth right now, and her anxiety has been flaring up. We've decided that for her mental health, we need to keep Christmas very small and low pressure. We're going to do a nuclear family-only celebration this year. Just the 3 of us, at the house. We think it's best if you stay in Chicago. It's nothing personal, we just need to focus on Tiffany right now. We'll FaceTime you on the 26th. Love, Mom." I read it 3 times. The words swam in front of my eyes. Just the 3 of us. "Nuclear family only," I whispered to the empty room. The implication hit me like a physical slap. I wasn't part of the nuclear family. I was the orbital debris. I looked at the pile of gold-wrapped gifts on the sofa. Thousands of dollars of merchandise meant to buy a seat at a table that had just been folded up and put away. I sat there for a long time, the Chicago wind howling against the glass, feeling smaller than I had in years. I didn't cry. I was too stunned to cry. But the phone buzzed again. Another email. From Mom. Subject: Christmas logistics.
One more thing. My stomach turned. Had she changed her mind? Was this an apology? I opened it. Also, since you aren't spending money on flights and taking time off work, Dad and I have a favor to ask regarding your sister's gift.
I stared at the screen, blinking rapidly, trying to make the pixels rearrange themselves into something that made sense. Dad and I have a favor to ask regarding your sister's gift. My thumb hovered over the link attached to the email. It wasn't a link to a wish list or a photo of a sweater. It was a link to PayPal. I tapped it. The page loaded with agonizing slowness on my apartment Wi-Fi. When the invoice finally popped up, the air left my lungs as if I'd been punched in the solar plexus. Amount due, $22,000 USD. Note, down payment for Tiff's Range Rover. Merry Christmas. I actually laughed. It was a short, dry sound that bounced off the empty walls of my living room. It had to be a typo. They meant $220, maybe for accessories, or maybe $2,200 for a used car contribution. Even that would be a stretch. But $22,000? That was a down payment on a house in some parts of the country. My phone pinged again, a text from Mom this time. Did you get the link? We're at the dealership right now. The salesman, Mike, says he needs the deposit by tomorrow to hold the white one with the beige interior. It's her dream car, Grace. My fingers trembled as I typed back. Mom, is this a joke? The invoice says $22,000. 3 dots danced on the screen. The bubble appeared. We know, isn't it exciting? Since you're saving so much money on flights, the rental car, and all the food you usually buy for the dinners, we figured you'd have plenty of budget freed up. Plus, with your promotion, we know you're doing well. It's Tiffany's year. She's had such a hard time finding herself. I dropped the phone onto the cushion beside me like it was radioactive. Finding herself? I said aloud, my voice rising in pitch. She's 23. She quit her barista job because the coffee smell gave her a headache. I stood up and paced the length of my living room. My heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. It wasn't just the money. I had savings, sure. I had worked 80-hour weeks for 5 years to build a safety net, to buy this apartment, to feel secure. But the logic, the twisted, pretzel-like logic, was what made my head spin. They had uninvited me. They had kicked me out of the holiday, and in the same breath, they had calculated exactly how much money my absence would save me and decided that money belonged to them? I looked at the pile of gifts again. The Japanese whiskey, the cashmere. I had already spent nearly $2,000 trying to buy their love, and now they wanted $22,000 more to buy my sister a luxury SUV while I sat alone in Chicago eating takeout? I picked up the phone again. My hands were shaking, but not from cold anymore. It was pure, unadulterated rage. I hit the call button for Dad. He answered on the second ring, background noise loud and cheerful. I could hear Christmas music and the murmur of a busy showroom. Gracie, he boomed, sounding jovial. Did you get the invoice? Mike here is saying this model is flying off the lot. Dad, I said, my voice steady but icy. I'm not paying $22,000 for Tiffany's car. The line went silent. The Christmas music in the background seemed to get louder. What do you mean? His tone shifted instantly, losing all its warmth. Grace, don't start drama, not at Christmas. Drama? I choked out the word, clutching the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. Dad, you just asked me for $22,000 after telling me I'm not welcome at Christmas? And I'm the one starting drama? We didn't say you weren't welcome, Dad corrected, his voice taking on that patronizing tone he used when explaining taxes to me. We said we're focusing on Tiffany. There's a difference. And honestly, Grace, you're being incredibly selfish. You make big city money. You have that fancy apartment. You wear those suits. You've been blessed. Why are you so greedy with your blessings?" The word greedy settled in my gut like a stone. I thought about the 6 a.m. alarms, the skipped lunches, the panic attacks in the office bathroom before big presentations. I thought about the student loans I had aggressively paid off while Tiffany dropped out of 3 different colleges on Dad's dime. "It's not greed, Dad. It's my savings. That's for my future." "Your future's secure," he snapped. Then, his voice muffled slightly as the phone was passed. "Here, talk to your mother. She can explain the emotional side of this, since you're clearly stuck on the numbers." "Grace." Mom's voice was softer, breathless, but laced with a dangerous edge. "Honey, please don't do this, not here. The salesman is looking at us." "Then leave," I said, my voice cracking. "Walk away from the car, Mom." "We can't," she whispered. "Tiffany is sitting in the driver's seat right now. She's crying, Grace. She says she finally feels like she belongs somewhere in this car. It's her safe space. After the years she's had, the breakup with that boy, the job stress, do you really want to be the reason she spirals again? Do you want your sister to be depressed on Christmas because you wouldn't help?" The guilt was a physical weight, pressing down on my shoulders. It was a weapon they had honed for decades. If Tiffany's unhappy, it's because Grace didn't do enough. I can't do $22,000. That's insane," I stammered, my resolve wavering just a fraction. The old habit of fixing things, of smoothing over the cracks with my own resources, was kicking in. Maybe I could do $2,000 as a gift." There was a pause, a cold, sharp silence. "$2,000? Mom's voice went flat. "That won't even cover the taxes, Grace. That's insulting. If that's how much you value your sister, then maybe it is better you don't come home. You bring such negative energy." Click. She hung up. I stood in the center of my living room, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dead air. Tears finally pricked my eyes. Hot, angry tears that blurred the gray Chicago skyline outside my window. I needed sanity. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't the monster they just painted me to be. I dialed Sarah. She picked up on the first ring. "Hey, tell me you're not packing yet. Let's grab drinks before you enter the Ohio war zone." "I'm not going," I said, my voice trembling. "And I need you to come over. I think I'm losing my mind." 20 minutes later, Sarah was on my couch, pouring me a glass of wine while I recounted the conversation. I showed her the email. I showed her the invoice. Sarah didn't look sad. She looked homicidal. "They uninvited you?" she said slowly, her eyes narrowing as she read the email again. "To focus on Tiffany's mental health?" "Yeah, she's fragile." "Fragile," Sarah scoffed. She pulled out her own phone. "Grace, you've been off social media for a week because of that big project, right?" "Yeah. Why?" She tapped her screen a few times, her expression darkening with every swipe. "You need to see this. You really, really need to see this." She turned her phone toward me. I leaned in, squinting at Sarah's screen. It was Tiffany's Instagram story, posted just 2 hours ago. The first clip was a boomerang of Tiffany holding a glass of champagne, clinking it against my mother's glass. They weren't in sweatpants. They weren't looking somber or mentally fragile. Tiffany was wearing a silver sequin dress that caught the light like a disco ball, and Mom was in her special occasion red silk blouse. But it was the caption that made the wine in my stomach turn to acid. "Pre-Christmas prep. Can't wait for the annual Christmas Eve bash. 50 guests, open bar, and big surprises coming. Cheers, Sparkles. Hashtag party of the year. Hashtag main character energy." I swiped left. The next slide was a repost from a local catering company.
so excited to cater the Miller family Christmas Eve gala. Check out this menu. It was a list of orders that cost more per head than I spent on groceries in a month. A gala? I whispered. They told me it was nuclear family only. They said Tiffany was having a breakdown. Look at the next one, Sarah said, her voice grim. I tapped the screen. It was a video of my dad standing in the living room, my living room, the one I had helped paint 3 years ago, directing a crew of guys setting up a professional sound system. Make sure the bass is heavy, Dad was saying in the video, laughing. We want the neighbors to know we're celebrating. I sat back, the betrayal washing over me like ice water. There was no mental health crisis. There was no quiet, intimate gathering. They were throwing the biggest party of the decade. They hadn't uninvited me because Tiffany needed peace and quiet. They hadn't uninvited me because I didn't fit the aesthetic. Or worse, because they knew if I was there, I'd ask how they were paying for all of this. I was the buzzkill. I was the walking calculator they didn't want ruining the vibe. They lied, I said, my voice trembling. They literally looked me in the eye, well, via email, and lied so I wouldn't come. They didn't want me. They just wanted my money to buy the centerpiece for their show. The car, Sarah realized, her eyes widening. The car is the grand finale. They want to unveil the Range Rover at this party in front of 50 people to show off how successful the family is. And I want them to pay for it so they can take the credit. My phone buzzed again on the table. It was a notification from Facebook. My stomach dropped. Mom tagged you in a post. I picked up my phone with numb fingers. It was a text post, set against a background of sad, rainy clouds. Please pray for our family this Christmas. It's heartbreaking when children forget where they came from. We're trying to give Tiffany a good holiday despite the negativity some people are bringing into our lives. It's sad when money changes people. Below it, my Aunt Linda had already commented, "Oh no, Susan, is everything okay? Sending prayers." My mom's reply, "Just some family members refusing to help out. It's hard when you sacrifice everything for your kids and they turn their backs on you when they make it big." She's spinning the narrative, Sarah said, reading over my shoulder. Grace, she's preemptively striking. She knows you said no to the money, so now she's painting you as the villain before you can tell anyone the truth. I stared at the screen. The comments were rolling in. Cousins, neighbors, people I had known since kindergarten were liking the post, sending hug reactions, and judging me without knowing a single fact. They aren't just uninviting me, they're trying to destroy my reputation to guilt me into paying. "What are you going to do?" Sarah asked softly. I looked at the pile of gifts on the sofa, the whiskey, the cashmere, the bag. Then I looked at the invoice for $22,000. I'm going to ruin their party. "If you're going to do this," Sarah said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "you need receipts. Save everything, now." She was right. I didn't smash my phone. I weaponized it. For the next hour, Sarah and I became forensic accountants of my family's emotional abuse. Screenshot the email uninviting me to focus on mental health. Screenshot the timestamps on Tiffany's Party of the Year Instagram stories posted mere hours later. Screenshot the $22,000 PayPal invoice with the cheerful note, "Merry Christmas." Screenshot the text thread where Mom admitted they were at the dealership right now. Screenshot the Facebook post where Mom claims I had turned my back on the family. "They're digging their own grave," Sarah muttered, cropping an image of my dad testing the subwoofers. "But they're betting on you being too classy to push the dirt in." My phone vibrated on the table, buzzing aggressively against the wood. It wasn't Mom or Dad this time. Incoming call, Tiffany. "Answer it," Sarah mouthed. "Put it on speaker." I took a deep breath, steeling myself against the wave of nausea, and tapped the green button. "Grace." Tiffany's voice was high and tight, the tone she used when she wanted something. "Mom says you're having a meltdown about the money. Can you literally just stop? You're ruining my vibe." "Your vibe?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "Tiffany, Mom asked me for 22 grand. Do you have any idea how much money that is?" "Oh my God, don't start with the finance bro lecture," she groaned. I heard the distinct rustle of shopping bags in the background. "You have a salary. Mom told me you got a bonus. Why are you hoarding it? It's Christmas. You're supposed to be the big sister." I was uninvited, Tiff, remember? The nuclear family rule? "Well, yeah," she said, as if stating the obvious. "You're always so intense. You judge everything. We just want to have a fun party without you asking how much the catering cost every 5 minutes. Is that a crime?" I looked at Sarah. Her jaw was on the floor. "So there is a party," I said. "Duh, it's a Christmas Eve bash. Whatever, that's not the point. The point is, I already told my friends I'm getting the Range Rover. I posted a teaser pic of the keys on my close friend's story. If I don't get it, I'm gonna look like an idiot. Do you want me to look like an idiot?" "I want you to pay for your car, Tiffany." There was a stunned silence, then a sharp intake of breath. "You are so jealous. You've always been jealous because Mom and Dad actually like hanging out with me. Just pay the invoice, Grace. If you don't, I'm telling everyone you stole my college fund or something. I don't care. Just fix it." The line went dead. I sat there, the silence ringing in my ears. The sheer entitlement was breathtaking. It wasn't just that they wanted the money, it was that they genuinely believed they deserved it because I was the unfun one. I was the wallet, not the daughter. "She threatened to lie about you stealing from you," Sarah said, her voice shaking with rage. "That's it. No mercy." A moment later, a new email notification popped up. It was from PayPal again. Reminder, invoice number 001 from Susan Miller is due. Note from sender, we need this by tomorrow morning, Christmas Eve, to pick up the car for the party. Don't disappoint us again. I stared at the blinking cursor on my laptop. They wanted a response? They wanted a transaction? "I'm going to pay something," I said, opening a new tab on my browser. I pulled up the website for a local foster care charity in Ohio, one that provided holiday gifts for children who actually had nothing. I looked at Sarah. "Ready to draft the post?" "Born ready," she said. Christmas Eve morning in Chicago broke gray and steel cold. Usually I'd be in my childhood kitchen right now, frantically chopping vegetables while my mother critiqued my knife skills. Instead, I was sitting at my kitchen island, a mug of black coffee in one hand and my credit card in the other. "Do it," Sarah said. She hadn't left. She was currently wearing my oversized bathrobe, acting as my emotional bodyguard. I looked at the website for the Ohio Valley Foster Care Initiative. I typed in the amount, $2,200. It was 10% of what they demanded. It was exactly the amount I had offered my mother on the phone, the amount she had called insulting. In the dedication field, I typed, "In honor of Susan and Robert Miller." In the recipient email field, I typed my own address. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of the tax write-off. I clicked donate. A green check mark filled the screen. "Thank you for your generosity." "It's done," I exhaled, feeling a strange hollow lightness in my chest. "The money's gone. I can't give it to them even if I wanted to." "Good," Sarah said. "Now brace yourself. It's 10 a.m. The dealership opens in an hour." The silence lasted until exactly 11:15 a.m. Then my phone ignited. It started with a text from Dad. "At the dealer, Mike has the paperwork ready. Send the confirmation number for the wire transfer." I didn't reply. 5 minutes later, "Grace, Mike is waiting." 10 minutes later, "Pick up the phone now." Then came Mom. "Tiffany is in the car taking selfies. Don't ruin this moment. Transfer the funds." I set the phone on the counter, face up, and watched the notifications roll in like storm waves crashing against a seawall. I felt detached, like I was watching a documentary about someone else's dysfunction. They weren't worried about me. They weren't worried about whether I was okay alone on Christmas Eve. They were worried about Mike. They were worried about the look. At noon, the tone shifted from demanding to vicious. "Mom, you are a selfish, bitter little girl. We raised you better than this." "Tiffany, I hate you. You're literally the worst sister in the world. Dad is yelling at the salesman. This is so embarrassing. I hope you die alone." I flinched at that one. "I hope you die alone." "She didn't mean it," I whispered, trying to convince myself. "She's just disappointed." "She's 23, Grace," Sarah said, reading the screen over my shoulder. "She's an adult. That's not disappointment. That's cruelty." Then the final blow came. A notification from Facebook. Susan Miller added a new photo. It was a picture of Tiffany, eyes red and puffy, impressive considering she was taking selfies 20 minutes ago, sitting on the curb outside the dealership. The caption read, "Heartbroken. We tried to give our daughter the Christmas she deserved, but unfortunately, promises were broken by family members who care more about their bank accounts than their own blood. It's hard to watch your child cry because her sister decided to play games with her happiness. Please pray for Grace. She's clearly battling some demons to be this cruel." The comments were immediate. "Oh my God, Susan, that's awful. So sorry to hear Grace is struggling. Mental illness is real. Ungrateful kids these days. Stay strong, Tiffany." They were painting me as mentally unstable. They were using prayers as a weapon to destroy my credibility so that when I refused to pay, everyone would just think I was having a breakdown. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It was the quiet click of a lock falling into place. "They want a show?" I said, standing up and walking to my laptop. "Let's give them a show." I opened the folder on my desktop labeled Receipts. "Are you sure?" Sarah asked. She was already pulling up the editing software. "They just accused me of being mentally unstable and cruel. If I stay silent, that becomes the truth. I have to defend myself." I began dragging files into the upload window. The email, the invoice, the time-stamped party posts, the nasty texts, and finally the donation receipt for $2,200. I typed the caption. My fingers flew across the keys, fueled by 28 years of being the backup plan, the scapegoat, the wallet. I hovered the mouse over the post button. "Merry Christmas, Mom." I pressed post. For a second, nothing happened. The little blue circle spun on the screen, mocking my heart rate, which was currently galloping at a pace that would worry a cardiologist. Then, the screen refreshed. Grace Miller added a new post, just now. The caption was simple. "I see a lot of confusion about why I'm not home for Christmas. I think it's important to clear the air.
especially since my mental health is being publicly discussed. I was uninvited to save money and focus on Tiffany's health, yet asked to fund a $22,000 car for a party I wasn't allowed to attend. I love my family, but I cannot buy their love. Since I was asked to contribute $22K, I've donated what I could afford to the Ohio Valley Foster Care Initiative. Merry Christmas. I put the phone down on the counter. Now what? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Now, Sarah said, pouring more wine, we watch the world burn. The first 3 minutes were silent. It was the calm before the digital storm. Then, a notification popped up. It wasn't a comment. It was a wow reaction from Aunt Linda, the same Aunt Linda who had just been praying for my demons. Then, a comment from my cousin Mike. Wait, they sent you an invoice? Like a literal PayPal invoice? What the Then, my high school best friend. The timestamps on the party posts. Grace, I'm sorry. This is insane. Then, the floodgates opened. My phone didn't just buzz, it vibrated continuously, dancing across the granite countertop like a possessed hockey puck. I picked it up. The comments on my mom's original sad post had stopped. Everyone was migrating to my post. The narrative was not just shifting, it was capsizing. Aunt Linda. Susan, you told me Grace refused to come home because she was working. You didn't tell me you uninvited her? And asking for a car? Is this real? Uncle Bob. Checking in. I just saw the invoice screenshot. $22,000? Robert, have you lost your mind? That's extortion, not a gift. Random neighbor. I thought the party was to cheer Tiffany up. She looks pretty happy in those party prep videos. Untagging myself from this mess. My mother's phone call came 3 minutes later. The ringtone, usually annoying, sounded like a siren. Hello, Mother, I answered. I put it on speaker. Take it down! She wasn't crying. She was screaming. It was a guttural, panic sound I'd never heard before. Grace, take it down right now. Do you have any idea what you've done? Aunt Linda just called and canceled bringing the pies? People are commenting on Tiffany's page calling her a gold digger. I posted the truth, Mom. You wanted to tell a story about me. I just finished the story. It's private family business, she shrieked. You made it public when you posted a picture of Tiffany crying and said I was cruel. You wanted the court of public opinion? You got it. We will be the laughingstock of the church. The party starts in 6 hours. People are messaging me asking if the party is still on or if they should bring their checkbooks. You've humiliated us. No, Mom. You humiliated yourselves. You uninvited your daughter to fund a lifestyle you can't afford and then tried to bully me into paying for it. That's on you. Grace, please. She switched tactics instantly, her voice dropping to a desperate sob. Just delete it. We can say your account was hacked. We'll tell everyone it was a misunderstanding. Come home. We'll buy you a ticket right now. You can come to the party. I looked at Sarah. She was shaking her head vigorously. I looked at the window, at the gray Chicago sky, which suddenly looked beautiful and free. No thanks, I said. I have plans, and I think I've spent enough money on this family for one lifetime. If you hang up, my father's voice roared from the background. Don't bother ever calling us again. Okay. And for the first time in 28 years, I was the one who hung up. The silence that followed the click of the disconnect button wasn't empty. It was heavy, vibrating with the ghost of my father's shout. I stood there, staring at the phone screen as it went dark, waiting for the guilt to hit me. I waited for that familiar, crushing weight in my chest, the one that usually screamed, "Fix it, Grace. Be the good daughter."
but it didn't come. Instead, I felt lighter. It was as if I had been carrying a backpack full of rocks up a mountain for 28 years, and I had finally just shrugged it off. "You okay?" Sarah asked softly. She had stopped pouring wine and was watching me closely, ready to catch me if I crumbled. I took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of pine from my small artificial tree and the crisp, clean air of my apartment. "I think," I said, my voice steady, "I'm finally free." I looked down at the phone one last time. The notifications were still rolling in, a chaotic ticker tape of family drama. Cousin Mike, "Dude, Tiffany just deleted her Instagram." Aunt Linda, "I'm coming to Chicago next week, Grace. Let's get lunch. We need to talk about your mother." Mom, missed call. Mom, missed call. Mom, missed call. The party was imploding in real time. The gala of the century was now the scandal of the season. They wouldn't be unveiling a Range Rover tonight. They'd be fielding awkward questions about why they tried to extort their daughter. I pressed the power button on the side of my phone and held it down. The screen glowed with the Apple logo, then faded to black. I tossed the dead phone onto the sofa, right on top of the cashmere wrap that I'd bought for my mother. "What do we do now?" Sarah asked, with a mischievous glint in her eye. "We have a bottle of whiskey meant for your dad and a designer bag meant for Tiffany. eBay?" "No," I said, and a smile finally broke through the tension. "We keep the whiskey, crack it open, and the bag, I'll return it tomorrow and use the credit to book a flight to somewhere warm, maybe Cabo." "I like the way you think," Sarah grinned and reached for the bottle of Japanese whiskey. We didn't cook a traditional Christmas dinner. I didn't want turkey. I didn't want stuffing. I didn't want anything that tasted like the holidays I used to know. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the menu for Noah, the most expensive sushi place in the city. I ordered the omakase platter for 2. Fatty tuna, uni, wagyu beef rolls with gold flakes. The kind of meal I would usually call irresponsible. The total came to $400. I looked at the place order button. It was a lot of money, but compared to $22,000, it was pocket change. We ate on the floor of my living room, watching bad Hallmark movies and drinking the whiskey that was too good for my father's palate anyway. We laughed until our sides hurt about the absurdity of the mental health invoice. For the first time in years, I wasn't checking my watch, worrying about my tone, or walking on eggshells. As the snow started to fall outside, dusting the Chicago skyline in white, I walked over to the window. I could see the lights of the city blinking back at me, millions of people living their lives. Somewhere in Ohio, there was a house full of tension, a driveway with no Range Rover, and a family scrambling to spin a web of lies that had already been swept away. I was alone in my apartment, but I wasn't lonely. I had my best friend, I had my dignity, and for the first time, I had my own money. I raised my glass to the reflection in the window. "Merry Christmas, Grace. You bought yourself the best gift of all."